Right, well, greetings, welcome everyone, welcome to our guests, and welcome back to the Philosophy Club here in little Bettet in the middle of France. I'll do a little survey summary of what I've been up to in the last week or two. I didn't record this last week because I was in Britain, and I went on a quick visit, taught a course in Poole in Dorset, where I used to be head of religious studies in the grammar school. It was nice to be back in Poole. And yeah, we had a course with Annabelle Lazenby, an old friend of mine, on mindfulness and enlightenment. So she taught the mindfulness side, the Buddhist kind of oriented bit, secular Buddhism you could call it. And she studied with some leading experts on that. And that was interesting. And then I did the extra bit, the enlightenments bit, which was based partly on the book I wrote a few years ago, Enlightenments, first ever time anyone's done a book on enlightenments, in all the traditions. Because ever since I was a philosophy student back at Bristol University in the 70s, I wanted to know what is the common universal truth to all the traditions, you know, and what is the, is there a universal enlightenment that all of them advocate, and how do they differ in methodologies and practices and stuff. I got interested in Buddhism, Sufism, yoga, started practicing about the age of 19, and I've always thought this is interesting, and then I realised nobody's ever done this before. There is no comparative enlightenments book. So I did it when I was teaching full-time. I gave a couple of lectures at SOAS and to the Pagan Society in Shrewsbury, classic lecture, which was recorded, but God knows where that's gone. And then it evolved into the book. And then last year I did a year-long master's course with my colleague Satyen Raja about the nature of enlightenments in different traditions. He's a martial artist and a Zen master, and has studied with many senior people around the planet. And so he was doing more of the practices and I was doing the theory. It was a good course, and it's all recorded, people can listen to it. Anyway, I summarised all that in 3 days and recorded it, so I'm going to be posting that gradually on my channel. So that's one thing I was doing. Then I was in in Avebury, in the Druid heartland of Wiltshire, giving a lecture to the Druid community. We actually did that in the church in Avebury, very ancient Anglican church.
Wow.
To St James of Compostela.
St James.
It was nice. Anyway, that you can watch as well. And then I had the pleasure to go into Stonehenge.
Wow. Amazing.
We had an actual access negotiated through the Order of the Stone, run by Alex Spurway and Merlin, and there were about 35 of us in the inner circle of the Stones for an equinox ritual for peace and blessings, and that was very moving actually to be back in the middle of Stonehenge. Haven't been for a while.
I can imagine that.
With a bunch of druids,
exciting it might be.
Yeah. And so let me introduce my dear friend Elif Ergoz, who's come all the way from Turkey.
Thank you very much.
Who lives close to Didyma, which is where there's a temple to Apollo.
Yeah.
And we're in the room called Apollo in the Museum of the Muses.
Oh, I feel
so
home.
Bit of a coincidence that. And anyway, that's enough about me and what I've been up to. Tell us what you've been up to, because you were supposed to come to the Poole course and then couldn't.
Yeah, I couldn't.
So you've come here instead for our own little mini enlightenments course.
Exactly. It's a pleasure to be here. An
You're
honor
welcome.
to be in your presence with our friends here as well. And it was a long time ago we met, 10 years ago. It is the first time that such thing is arranged, and in the Apollo room. What a coincidence. Are there coincidences, by the way?
Divine symmetry.
Divine symmetry.
Yeah.
So, a real pleasure to be here, an honor to be here. I'm so much inspired by all of your works, all of your collection of knowledge sets. And I'm also looking for this common denominator. I mean, just as you put in the Enlightenment concept. What is the common denominators between the knowledge sets? Because that's going to bring peace. That's going to bring a unification. If everyone says, okay, this is what I'm talking about. Oh, okay, this is also what I'm talking about. If people can come together and talk about it, they will understand actually they are very much same, right? Same.
Well, they're all copying from each other.
all
Like I was saying upstairs about
Right.
Ops,
Ops.
the wife of Saturn.
Wife
Yeah.
of Saturn.
The original word copy.
That
And
was
you,
a
so
very-
you're from Turkey. You were brought up there,
Oh,
but born in the States, right? So
I
you're a
was
dual
born in the
citizen.
States. I was living in Florida, born in Florida, Tallahassee. They just suffered from this hurricane, Helena. I'm sorry for my homeland.
Just now?
Just now, last
Oh.
week.
Right.
And but it's over. I think. I hope no casualties are there. And yes, I live in Turkey. It's a very unique place, Didim, where the Apollon temple is, and the land speaks to you. You know, you hear music, you hear stones talking to. It's alive. You know.
Because it was an oracle. The reason I went there when I travelled in Turkey in 2014, it was one of the great oracles of the ancient world.
Right.
To Apollo, because he was the god of prophecy.
Right.
So Delphi was important to him, and you know we can talk about Delphi in a minute. But tell us about Didyma and why that was an oracle. What was going on there?
Actually, it was a town of merchants, and also it was a town where everybody came to ask something. It could be about, you know, are the harvests are going to be good, you know, the merchants will come, or the kings will come in, are we going to win the wars, you know, everybody is coming to find an answer to. This is also, it helped me to find answers, also for my works. I wrote my first book there. Although I have written many theater scripts, it was not published as a book. So it was my first in Didim. I go to the temple, talk to Apollo from time to time. He's very joyful, making jokes. You ask him questions and he's asking back to you questions. So is this the Delphi it's all about? I don't know. So it wants you to find out the answers. Does it give you answers?
That's a good teacher.
It's yeah. So tell
Getting
me,
you to find
tell
out
me
yourself.
about it. Tell me about it. So it's sometimes I see people there meditating, still finding, searching for answers, because it is not about the land only. It's about the magnetic field that is accumulated through centuries by forms of thoughts, you know, energies put onto that land. And it is kind of a hub, it's a center for many things. I think this is where peace would start. I mean, by bringing things together, by seeing that we are not so different, you know, than each other. And we can talk, even if we don't agree with each other.
Well, I'd rather people doing that than blowing each other up in terrorism or war or
Yeah,
you
it's
know, violence. Which is why we've just signed this Lex Innocentium thing,
yes,
that we should at least preserve non-combatants and innocence,
that's right.
but you know, really get rid of all these wars, because, including the wars of the mind,
Right.
the intellectual wars that go on. I demonise you because you're the wrong religion or the wrong colour, or and vice versa. We've got to drop all that and go back to source.
Sure.
And find that common element of self-knowledge, wisdom within us all.
That's right.
You know, Apollo within, as it were. Well, that's very, very exciting. It's just a coincidence. I didn't know you were from there. But, yeah, that's very exciting. And it's close, of course, to Miletus, what I call Miletus. You call Milet, or
Millet,
where some of the first philosophers existed.
Yes.
Thales.
like Thales.
Yeah, the great
Yes.
philosopher who said everything comes from water.
Yeah.
And You know, so you're from the homeland of philosophy and so on.
That's right. You feel that.
Yeah,
over
yeah.
there. You
When I was
feel
there.
it. It's so difficult to describe with words. It talks to you, or you get the smell. You turn your head as if someone is sitting there on the stone. You go back, 5,000 years ago, and maybe
You can feel the
you
energies.
feel it. You feel it's still there. The energy. I think it was taken good care of, but it could have been, of course, much more constructed and built as if it's in those days of the philosophy. Maybe the construction can go on further, but you feel the energy, and I'm for the energy, if
Yeah,
anything.
sure. No, thank you. And
Thank you.
yeah, just to say about the Delphic oracles. So I'm the kind of director of the International Delphic Academy,
Wow.
which is a network of scholars and thinkers. We're trying to restart the Delphic Games. Well, we're trying to support the Delphic Games that have already been started,
Yes.
which took place in a sequence with the Olympic Games. But
That's
we're
right.
about the arts and culture, poetry, music, dance, and so on. And but I'm arguing as the academic on the team that we should also refound the Delphic Oracle
The seers.
as part of that job and get the
That's right.
seers,
That's
the
right.
modern day, channelers, whatever we want to call them, Pythias they were called, people trained to plug into Apollo, like you're saying you have that skill. Well, I'd like, you should be part of our Delphic Oracle team.
It would be an honor,
And, because it's, and to do it seriously and properly and, not for commercial profit, it would be a free
No.
thing for people. When the
Correct.
Delphic Games are going on, we'll have someone resident in Delphi, maybe in Didyma, but certainly in Delphi.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody's very anxious about the future on the planet. We don't quite see where we're going. We seem to have hit brick walls.
That's right.
I mean, Russian people must be despairing. They didn't know they were going to have this huge war with their brothers and sisters in Ukraine, and vice versa.
Vice versa.
And the same in Israel and Palestine. Most Israelis and Palestinians want peace. They don't want
True.
endless wars. And Lebanon too. I have good Lebanese friends. They don't want wars. So we have to somehow give them a future that we can walk to together, hand in hand. And that's why I want to restart the Delphic Oracle, because it's a sign of hope.
Hope is
You know.
very important.
It's a great philosopher actually wrote a book called about hope. He was a kind of Marxist German intellectual. It's a huge, great 3-volume work on hope, which I love. It's one of the best forms. He's sort of Marxist idealist. And he said the best thing about Marx was at least he was looking for a future. He didn't get right how we get there,
Yeah.
but he had a dream of a sort of communist utopia, which is a lovely dream. But so now we have to sort of revision how we get there, because using
Yes.
violence didn't work.
No. Never works.
No, it never works. So anyway, so yes, let's dream together. And I have a friend in Israel, when I went to Israel, called Shlomo Soham, who is a judge in Israel. He's an intellectual. He's part of my World Intellectual Wisdom Forum. And he was appointed by the Knesset as the ombudsman for the future.
Wow.
So there's about 2 or 3 of these around the world. There's one in Sweden, one in Wales. And they have to look at all the legislation that comes on the floor of Parliament and look at it from the future and say, will this benefit people in Wales or Sweden or Israel like 100, 200 years from now?
I see.
And then he has to write a note on the bill saying, no, this is absolutely no good. You can't pass this unless you change paragraphs 10 to 20. And he had that job for 10 years. And he then wrote a book called Future Intelligence,
Oh.
which is like each of us has to examine our lives and look at it from the
Yeah.
perspective of the
I will
future
take a note on that.
and say, am I wasting my life? Like, from that perspective, look at 10 years ahead and look back on what you're doing and say, shouldn't I really be doing an engineering degree and, or something, Anyway, I love Shlomo. He's He's a good man, and I'm sure people like him and Israel, they're desperate to end this stupid war. Because war closes down the future. I watched, when I was in England, I saw a film, very moving, on BBC television, I think, of footage shot from the Nova Film Festival by the people that were being killed, the young festival goers.
Oh,
Very sad filming, on their mobile phones, you know, and you were seeing people roaming around shooting them. A bunch of people hid in, I don't know, sort of, you know, porta cabins, and they were hiding. And then these guys were going around shooting them, which was shocking, terrible. And there was one lovely young girl whose fiancé was shot and killed in front of her because they saw where he was and shot him. And she said, crying to camera, because the documentary was filmed, showing the footage but then interviewing them, she said, I don't know what to do with my life. That was my entire future. My fiancé, we had a whole life planned.
dreams.
We were going to live together, marry, have kids. I had a whole future. Now my entire future's gone. And she was just crying, you know. And I think that's why I'm against war and violence, among many other reasons. It destroys people's futures.
Sure.
You know, you can't plan. I mean, think of the poor people in Gaza with their homes destroyed. What kind of future are they facing? They're facing, like, will we be bombed tonight, kind of. So no, I don't think human beings should go through that. So
No, that's not necessary at all. All kind of violence. I mean, this is not one side only. All sides. I mean, every party that's involved, because you cannot solve anything through it. You seem as if you're trying to solve things, maybe for some warlord perspectives or not. I don't know. But
well, you drop a bomb on and kill the enemy, but then you kill loads of other people.
What happened in Hiroshima? What happened in Nagasaki? Did it solve anything? I mean, so many years have passed.
Well, I'm watching the film Oppenheimer, and some
yes,
people
you know.
said it prevented much more casualties. I mean, that's the argument used.
I cannot say anything because
but,
I will watch it. I didn't yet.
It seems, I mean, it's created huge other problems, you know, the whole
Yes.
nuclear arms race, and
Always.
I think there's always non-violent solutions to problems myself,
Yes, which
which would have been better than Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
yeah, which requires more consciousness codes, more levels, advanced levels
Higher
to
level
solve
of
high
consciousness,
levels. It's easy to shortcut through violence, but it creates
Yeah.
another
Whole load of
aspect of
Yeah.
problem that it needs to be solved,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it will stop somewhere.
Well, that's what we're doing. That's the point of my work as a philosopher
Yes.
and philosopher of peace, and
I
why we
believe.
have the philosophy club, and your work too.
I believe in it.
And we will get there. It's just taking a while. I think, you know, one side killing the other side is breaking the conversation. I think it was very sad when Israel killed the chief negotiator for the Palestinian peace talks in Iran. They kind of tracked down where he was and blew him up. That's cheating. That's not how to do diplomacy. That's breaking every rule of diplomacy. And also what they're saying is, you're not entitled to a future. You know, we're not interested in your part of the conversation. And that, I think, is an epistemological error on the part of the Israeli elite that are running the military at the moment. Because this is an ontological right. We all have a right to a future if we are. Existence comes with a coding towards the future. And peace is about claiming that ontological right for everybody, not
For
just
everybody.
for me.
Yes.
And then we create a common future that we can cohabit.
Yeah.
And that's what that sort of thinking seems to be done at the moment in these diplomatic elites. I did have a really interesting conversation on the plane going out with someone that works for the Foreign Office in the UK, who was talking about David Lammy's new vision of the future for the Labour government.
Oh, I
coming
see.
in. And, you know, we had an interesting chat about how, you know, it might be possible to have some conversations with them about, because Britain, I know, would love to help them create a common future. And we discussed about how it's part of our karma, because we fought the Turks and created, you know, Palestine, and it's a mess, you know. I think we should work with Turkey in creating a peace in that region.
I would say a sentence of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. You may everybody knows the founding father of Turkey. Not only Turkey, actually, all the innocence, which is the pact we just signed. It calls peace at home, peace in the world, or you can call peace on earth, peace in the universe. You can interpret the sentence two-dimensional, maybe.
Okay.
So Earth is a place where we need to come together as representatives of many dimensions who are maybe waging war up there in the macro level. And we come here to unify. Actually, that's why we come without remembering who we are.
That's what the planet's for. It's
That's
sort of
yes,
an
just
academy, advanced academy for
exactly.
visiting
You
spiritual.
sit together. Maybe you sit together with your enemy, or maybe you marry your enemy without knowing about it. But you bring the codes together, just like the energies first mingle and get to know each other. They generate common codes, and then these codes are amplified to the macro level to solve wars up there. It's a very important place we're living in, the Earth, and waging a war on an earthly plane is a big sin, big that requires punishment or sanctions, needs to be stopped.
Detention.
It is a very dangerous thing. This is not a place to make wars.
No, it's too precious, this planet.
Yeah, it's too precious. And we have raison d'etre of being here, reason why we are born onto this planet. And if we don't do that, fulfill that reason why, we will face other problems, which we don't know about it yet.
Sure, no, it creates knock-on effects of karma, as the Buddhists would say.
Oh,
Jains.
a lot more than karma, just the word. That will not be sufficing the what we
Has
have
negative effects,
it's very, very, very difficult to handle.
If I interpret what you're saying in some of my language as
Please.
well, I would say that we're here on this planet to create beauty.
Right.
This is a beautiful planet, you know. And Apollo, of course, is the lord of beauty
Yes.
and art and music.
Music.
And that's why he works with the 9 muses. And that's why the Delphic games are about beauty instead of war. So the Greeks were very warlike, great warriors, you know, but they also loved the arts. They invented theatre, dance, music. And I believe that artistic energy is still inside us. We create,
Sure.
and that's what attracts us. That's why we fall in love. We see something beautiful, a painting, a picture, a person, a home. And that's what Apollo wants. Although he is an amazing warrior and the lord of the archer,
Oh, of course. Art.
Paris was his, devotee and so on.
Yes. Some representative of that.
Yeah, and Troy was his favourite town, which I went to in Turkey.
Yes, I did also.
I had a vision actually when I was in Troy.
Really?
Yeah, I was sitting there writing a poem, which I might read later at the end, but I had this vision of, wouldn't it be amazing to have a peace conference here one day between Asia and Europe?
Wow.
Like all the kind of peace activists and stuff from every Asian country,
Yeah.
and all the ones from Europe could come here to Troy. They could sort of stay in Çanakkale, but have a ritual, a ceremony at Troy, and bury the hatchet of this war between Asia and Europe.
Maybe. That's a good idea. Very,
because-
very good idea.
Like Troy was the beginning of it all,
Yes.
and like America wanting to bomb Iran. That's like, that's the same story going on. We've got to stop this war between Europe and Asia before it destroys the planet. And I thought if they came to Troy symbolically,
Maybe that's a good place to start.
I got this vision of all the different nations with their flags, like having a peace gathering.
We should
and,
write that down.
and the archaeologist who discovered Çanakkale, who has a library in Çanakkale, we could have it there. Anyway, that's what I saw. I think it's worth doing.
What reminded me what you said.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit interested in languages, And the frequency of words, although they may not literally mean that. Troy means, in German, of course, this is not a German name, it means being loyal to the cause.
Like true.
Like
Comes
true,
from the same
Troy,
word.
Troja Mensch, so for instance, loyal Mensch.
Okay.
Loyal
Troja,
to
yeah.
the values, loyal to the reason why you are sent on earth, something like that. Loyal to the truth.
Okay. Well, the Hittite was an Indo-European language spoken
Yes,
around
maybe that's
there.
the root coming from.
There might be a Hittite link to that
Could
root.
be.
I could look into the etymology of Troy. It'd be
Will
interesting.
we do that? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So that sounds like it. And Troy, making a peace conference there is maybe it found its place on earth, the peace conference.
Well,
really.
I think it would be amazing symbolically.
Amazing.
I mean, I'm a great fan of Homer. I've read Homer, and who told the story of the war, the Trojan War. But I think it's time to make the Trojan peace.
Maybe.
You know, because they're all. I mean, they're all great heroes.
Right.
And let's let them
Let's honor
live
them.
in peace instead of war.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's honor them.
Get Brad Pitt to give away the Golden Globes because he was the actor. He did Achilles.
I know he did a great job.
Yeah. But I mean, why can't Hector and Achilles make friends and work for peace together now?
It's all because of a woman, you know. Peace is getting.
Yeah, but I've solved that problem with the Wisdom Affairs.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
good.
don't have to worry.
Yeah.
Good.
Women are beautiful.
You
We
have
love
to.
them.
You
but
have to
gotta-
teach everyone that how to, you know.
Well, that can be one of the components of the conference is
Maybe.
how to handle emotional turbulence that causes wars.
That's right. I'm
That
just
would be-
joking.
Well, I'm not. Because it's part of the. Often, although women aren't warriors, they're often behind the scenes causing wars. You know,
Yeah.
in history, as a historian, I can vouch that.
Yeah. Actually, it was a time, a long time, where female energy was managing the world. Like Amazons, like
Sure, the matriarchal.
the story of the
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is not.
I love that movie,
I love
Wonder
it.
Woman.
I love it. I love her as well. I mean, she's beautiful and
It's a-
very strong.
Yeah,
She's like an iconic master for
sure.
everyone,
for women,
women
Mm.
to stand up and fight.
Mm.
Okay, it's a peace conference. Fighting, I mean, just
Well,
you know,
to struggle.
to struggle,
Let's use
to,
the term.
to
The
struggle.
jihad in Arabic, right, is to struggle and strive for peace.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the
Right.
best warriors, the samurai say, never actually kills anyone.
Sure.
Because you get the victory that everyone can join in.
Yes.
Like the Jains say.
Yes.
The plan is to get a common victory where everyone gets their beloved.
Right.
And Menelaus and Paris don't have to fight because somebody else wants Menelaus or whatever, you know? You can,
Maybe.
Like,
Maybe.
yeah.
Everybody will be happy at the end.
So I think I told you upstairs when we were doing our tour of the museum,
Yeah.
I've been working on the Babylonian Akkadian language
Wow,
words
it's
for
perfect.
my dictionary of peace terminology. And the words for peace in Babylonian or Akkadian are like ancestral to both Hebrew shalom and Arabic Islam salam. And their word silmu was peace. Silmu, yeah, variants of that. It's the same root, SLM. And it meant completion, wholeness, and also happiness.
Yeah.
And so when Christ said to be perfect,
Yeah.
that was what he was talking about. To be perfect as your Father in heaven means to be complete.
Complete.
When you complete something and it's perfect, then you're happy and you're at peace. That's really and these Babylonian, they were quite clever, the Akkadians. And they were, like the Hebrews and the Arabs came later.
Yeah.
And the theology of the Bible and the Quran sort of derived from it. That's what I've been working on.
Yes, you have a marvelous work actually in terms of you are, in terms of chronology, you're organizing. That's an amazing idea to see the historical, facts running in order.
That's my job as a historian.
Yeah. It's-
Okay, Shall we, at that point, maybe let's go and look at this periodic table as a tool which we like to use in the Philosophy Club. We can share this one.
Okay,
They've got one each. So
perfect.
what we're going to do is choose one each, either randomly or pre-choice. And Noah, have you got one for us?
Where have you
did you
been recently?
We've been everywhere. Just choose one that you find interesting and would like to know more about, or you think's causing trouble on the planet.
Cosmicism.
Yeah.
A primal one?
Yeah.
Maori?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Maori
16.
one.
16.
Right, you're going to go with number 16. Okay, that's the New Zealand one, Maori. Excellent. Okay, have you got one?
Yes, in the following of your book, entitled Enlightenment,
Yes.
I'm inspired by the 129 about philosophy comparative
Ah, and global. Yeah, yeah, good one. Excellent. And you're going to go, Elif,
For 105, maybe cosmology.
Okay. And ufology.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ufology.
yeah. Okay, I tend to do them in chronological order, so I think we'll do. We'll start with the Maori,
Okay.
and then we'll sort of work through. So, yeah, I mean, I've not personally been to New Zealand, sad to say, but my mother did when in the 1930s, when she was a young graduate from the University of London. She got a ship through the Suez Canal, which took her all the way to Australia,
Wow.
and she lived and worked there.
What an adventure. Right?
It was quite an adventure, actually. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
written about it in her autobiography as a young graduate,
Wow.
and she taught in schools in Australia, and then went to New Zealand for 6 months. So I've got photographs, old black and white photographs, and she kept in touch with people from New Zealand ever since. You know?
Nurses.
And in Australia. And I've got friends, my good friend Jenny Wheatcroft, who I've known for 30 years, she spends part of the time in Europe, part in New Zealand, so I've heard all about from there. And my brother worked in New Zealand.
And you've never been there?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
But I've always had a fascination for the Maori culture, and my friend Philip Carr-Goldman, the senior druid, he makes correlations between what the druids do and what the Maoris do. And I've always felt the Maoris are like the druids of the Pacific and the Polynesian religion that they come from.
Interesting.
They believe they are the primal people who come from spirit. Their language is fascinating. I finished the Maori chapter for my book on the 99 names.
99
piece.
names. Please.
I learned many things doing the research, like when two Maoris meet for the first time, they've not met before, different parts of the island. There's a ritual greeting you give. So like you and me, we've only just met, well, we met a long time ago, but not properly, we weren't
Yeah,
formally
that's
introduced, right? So if we were Maori elders, first one and then the other recites their entire genealogical tree.
Oh.
My mother is called so-and-so. She was from the valley of such and such. My father is so-and-so. He had 4 brothers. He's from the mountain of such and such. My grandfather on my mother's side is such and such. And you go back as far as you can remember. And you say all the sacred events and things in your family history, right? And that takes about 10 or 15 minutes. And it has to be done in a formal, polite language.
Wow.
And then the other person does the same. And what it is, it's what the Maoris believe, it's your ancestors are watching the meeting
Okay.
and they're introducing you. They've engineered that you should meet. So it's being polite to the ancestors and the other person's ancestors. Because when you meet another person, everyone's involved. It's like 2
Arranged.
families meeting.
Okay, wow. It's very sacred.
It's a sacred thing, and
Very sacred.
this is what they do. And if you're giving a speech, the other time they do it is, let's say you're the mayor of a town and you're a Maori elder, and you're giving a formal speech. You introduce yourself